I hope you were able to catch up on emails, walk a bit, dance a bit if you needed to, and we're going to resume the programs, and as I mentioned, with our second session today. And Meg, if you want, we can start the recording, and Susan, you can invite the different speakers and panelists to our second session to turn on the camera. And as soon as I see everyone, we can get started.
So Lynette Dunlap and Olivia Henson, I'd love to welcome you to go ahead and put your cameras on, and we'll get ready for this session. So Lynette, I see your name, and so I'm hoping that you will go ahead and put the camera on so we can see your charming face.
Is Lynette having a...
Maybe so. Lynette, can you hear us?
Or maybe logging out and logging back in?
Yeah, let me, a minute ago, see if I can just give her a call. So I'll be right back.
Of course. Yeah, and I'll get started with the announcement. So Meg, I think we're ready to start the recording. All right, everyone, welcome again. So this is our second session. My name is Charles Adomran, and I'm very excited. This is our Activity Strong Winter Gathering. It is today, December 5th. As a reminder, Activity Strong is an initiative that we at ThinkSenior started, but we are doing this in partnership with Activity Connection, NAP, and NCAP. And for today's very special event, we are truly honored to be partnering with the Center for Innovation, led by Susan Ryan, that I'm about to welcome in a few seconds. As I mentioned, my name is Charles Adomran. I'm the CEO and co-founder of ThinkSenior. I'm just going to go through a few administrative announcements before letting the second session start. So up to 3 NAB, NCAP, and NCCLC and/or NCCDPC credits are available. To earn the credits, you just need to attend the full session. So the 3 sessions today are just 1 session, basically. And then to get the CUs, you just need to fill in the CU survey no later than Friday this week on December 8th, so you can process your certificate of attendance. And again, you can earn up to 3 hours of these CUs. Please note that due to the very large number of attendees today, certificates will be sent out via email throughout next week, so December 11th to December 15th, by the end of that day. If you have any questions, feel free to send them at webinars, webinars@linksenior.com. As a reminder, this session is being recorded, so that's going to give you the opportunity to come back to it, because obviously it's going to be awesome. But if you want to share it with your friends, family, colleagues, please do that. Also, as we are using Zoom webinar, both the chat and the Q&A features are enabled. So the chat feature, I think it's important to remind everyone that if you want to everyone to see your valuable contribution in the chat, please make sure you select everyone in the drop-down. And then the second part is if you want to have a question geared towards our panelists or the speakers today, please make sure to use the Q&A feature. And then last but certainly not least, 2 very quick reminders that are really important to us. Is 1, please have fun. It's extremely important for us to provide meaningful and amazing education, but we also know how important it is to continue having fun. And then the second part, and that is also extremely important, is thank you for what you do every single day. Like I said on the first session, we believe that person-directed living is senior living and vice versa. And what you all do is you enable that for our elders. Thank you. So thank you for the work that you do. Susan, I just can't wait for your session, so I'll be short in my introduction. Susan Ryan is the CEO of the Center for Innovation, and she is joined with Olivia and Lynette. And I will stop sharing, turn off my camera, and Susan, let you lead this second session. Thank you so much for being with us.
Well, once again, thank you, Charles. We are delighted to be a part of this wonderful gathering that you do frequently, and we are just honored to share a little bit about what we've learned. And, you know, I did want to just, first of all, congratulate you, Charles, on, I did listen in on that break and heard about the wonderful thing that you have just launched in Life Story. I think that's really exciting. And it sounded like I wasn't the only one on the break, because there was a lot of comments in the chat that many folks were really appreciating these gatherings, as well as what you have just launched. So congratulations on that.
Thank you
Appreciate
very much,
it.
Susan.
Sure. And then to echo Charles' comments about all of you and the thanks and the debt of gratitude that I have for all of you who are making this happen day in and day out. It really, truly, that's where life happens. And I've seen many familiar names as I've scrolled through the attendees list and looked at the chat. I can see that there are many people that I've seen your name, and many of you I have met. And so I truly am grateful to be among some of the heroes that are out there making life happen in a meaningful and purposeful way every day. So speaking of familiar faces, and though I'm unfortunately, for technology as it is, it's wonderful when it works well, but we're not going to have Lynette or Olivia on camera, but we will have their lovely voices. And I can tell you, I have seen them both on camera, and these are two amazing people. And so to get us started, I want to just ask Lynette if you would just let us know that you're here and that we can hear you. So Lynette Dunlap. She's talking and we can't hear her. So I don't know. This could be a problem because I am not the star of this show for sure. So she logged back out and she logged in. So I'm going to see what we can do to get the technology for Lynette. I'm going to, Meg, have you perhaps worked with Lynette?
Yeah, we'll see what we can do. It looks like she's unmuted, so we'll see what we can do. So stay tuned.
Is there a special number, Meg? So if they look at the, I'm looking at the microphone, and if they can switch to phone audio, maybe. So they're on the, I mean, I would think that it would be working, but maybe switch to phone audio. So if we look at some of those numbers that they can call, and Lynette, we can. And Marla, maybe you can give Lynette a call, and I'll fill the time, I can talk. But Marla, maybe you can give Lynette a call and try to get her connected that way. Awesome. All right, so let me tell you just a little bit about the people that you're going to be in touch with. I got to know Lynette Dunlap, oh gosh, it's been many years ago when they first opened the cottages at Belmead. They're part of Southern Administrative Services, and they happen to be located in Paragould, Arkansas, which is a very lovely rural town in Arkansas. And they transitioned from a very institutional building into what they have now 11 greenhouse homes. And it was in that time that I got to know Lynette and really appreciated her role as a nurse and her role as the model fidelity champion. So what was interesting to me is that it wasn't enough just to embrace the greenhouse model and its principles, but it was really important to create an intention in making sure that they really kept that culture alive and growing. And so Lynette has played that role as the model fidelity champion, really ensuring that the team is super involved in living those core values every day. Meaningful life and engagement, that is one of our core values in the Greenhouse Home, and a value that is obviously near and dear to everyone's heart that happens to be attending today. So I'm excited that she's going to be joining us, and she joins us with Olivia Henson. And I got to meet Olivia as well, and we've done some webinars with Olivia. Interestingly, there's a poll that was done that Marla and Stacy did that I thought was interesting when you were talking about your culture and, you know, that continuum where it's provider directed or person directed and a couple options in between. And everybody really talked about how important it was really to how in COVID times it really kind of reverted back to provider directed. And I think that preponderance to safety, and we're going to talk a little bit about that now. So it looks like, Meg, you can maybe support this connection as well. So it says that she's an attendee and muted. And so I think what they're going to have to do is to get kind of a unique way to be able to attend. So,
Yep, yeah, we're working on that.
Okay. Well, I'll keep talking, and then you can just communicate with them, and we'll
Yep.
ultimately get here. One thing I'll tell you about Olivia. Olivia began her career as a certified nursing assistant, and you know, a real hero, and did amazing things. But what she has been able to do now is to really grow into the opportunity for really supporting the life enrichment and the engagements in the Greenhouse Home. So when Olivia and Lynette joined us, she can kind of talk about what that unique role is. How does she, as their activity person, their life enrichment specialist, how does she support the Shabazim, in the case of the Greenhouse Homes there, to really deliver meaningful life and engagements? Just a little bit about what I noted about Paragould, Arkansas, and the cottages at Belmead. There was something so beautiful and so organic about that community. They were really not segregated off by themselves, but they were really a part of the greater community. And so what I really felt that was so powerful is the leaders there and those working in the homes, they kind of grew up with the people in the community. And so everything they did was not just everything happened in the home, but what do we do as it pertains to bringing the outside community in and us into the outside community? When we think about power of normal and normalizing our environments, I mean, it's a pretty powerful construct to be able to do that. The other thing that I'll say about the cottages at Belmead, I was fortunate to be able to, it was in 2019, just before the pandemic, we had received a small opportunity with Florida State University, the Claude Pepper Center, to be able to do some filming and try to capture. I saw something in the chat about supporting people living with dementia. When there's cognitive impairment, what does it look like when we are really trying to ensure that meaningful life and engagement happens there? And Belmead, the cottages at Belmead, they had just recently implemented the Best Life approach, which is our dementia approach to supporting people to live their best life, even though there is cognitive impairment. They had just run through our education and training for that resource, and we decided we wanted to capture what was happening in their community. And I can tell you, when I got on campus, I was so delighted to see the amazing things that were going on there. But just to let everybody know, the Best Life principles and a bit about my background. I am a nurse, and I have always believed that when somebody moves into a nursing home, a nursing community, that should not be the end of meaningful life and experiences. It should not mean the end of being able to live out my preferences and the simple pleasures of a day, as well as some of the things that are perhaps a bit even more significant. So when I discovered the work of Anne Ellett, and she has just written a book about dementia, and she is really, I'm sorry, I'm getting a little text here. So hopefully, Marla, you can communicate with Lynette, because she is texting and saying she's calling in as an attendee and she's not able to enter. So hoping that between Marla and Meg, I'm sure we're going to get this together. Anyway, worked with Anne Ellett, a nurse practitioner who had done a lot of work in dementia. And what I loved about what I had seen when she worked with Silverado Senior Living was the passion to normalize our environments and really provide those experiences for people that they would be experiencing in the regular community. That why should we have special, different experiences? That we really want to normalize all of our programs and our environments to really ensure that that meaningful life and engagement happens. And so it is, as it pertains to this, the best life principles. The number one principle is the power of normal. And that is really ensuring that we are helping those experience those, the things that you and I would enjoy. I don't want to be kept inside if I move into a nursing home. I want to be able to experience the things that are important. I don't want to have fabricated or unreal experiences. As much as I love my older comrades, I want to be involved and engaged with a younger population as well. Don't segregate me because of my age or because of my cognitive impairment, but let me really experience what it is to be normal and to really, my humanity has not changed. My worth, my value has not changed. And it's really important to be able to be seen as a person that still has worth and to have opportunities for some of those meaningful life and engagements. And that includes real things, real animals, real pets. So I'm going to just do an interesting kind of spontaneous chat question for you. I'm just out of curiosity wondering how many of you in your communities integrate children on a routine basis into your community. So just in the chat, I'd love to, and I'm going to pull it up. We do. I see. We do not. Okay. Not at all yet. And so I think there's a continuum when it comes with children. I think oftentimes it's not at all. It's just too hard. Or sometimes it's the children, the school, the choir, the something might come in periodically. So on holidays, exactly. So there are times that we might make it, okay, this is an event and we're going to plan for it. And I would say that's not a bad thing at all. That's a good thing. But when you think about meaningful life and deep knowing relationships and thinking about that opportunity for relationships, some tutoring to immigrants, oh my gosh, that's pretty exciting. One of our folks has written in. So it sounds like many of you are doing some amazing things, and that's a wonderful thing. Some of you have said we've not done it yet. So when we do get Lynette and Olivia, we're going to talk about some of the ways that they've done that. I'll tell you, when I was there doing some filming, I was really surprised to find out that there was a school bus that actually pulled in front of the greenhouse homes, and children actually, they had come to work with their mom or dad, and they actually got on the school bus, and the school bus took them off to their school. And at the end of the day, that school bus came back and those kids got off, and they were in visiting with elders. They were actually experiencing and supporting meaningful life and engagement. And what I loved about that is that it was a normal. a daily part of the rhythm of one's day. And the relationships that were able to happen at that time was powerful. I was so delighted to see exactly what they were able to do. So Stacy, you have joined me. I phoned a friend and I found an expert. So,
I absolutely just love sharing this best practice. In my past with a team and care community, a retirement community, I actually was working part-time and I joined a mom's club. And there's moms and dads clubs, and it's essentially people that are trying to stay at home and or work part-time and have a place for their kids to go, safe places, usually on a budget. So when I started working back full-time as a director of recreation in a retirement community, I thought, let me figure out how I can do this to engage, because it is so powerful to have, especially the preschoolers and the babies even to come in. So we did every week, we had a children entertainer, a musician come in, but she was able to gear her songs to the elders as well as to the children. And she came in and entertained. The moms and dads would come with their children, their babies, and it was just a nice group interaction and event. Typically about 30 minutes, but when I tell you, people stayed for longer. They had snacks. The elders were able to communicate and hold the children and play games afterwards. And it was just really a great way to get the community in. And at low cost as well. It wasn't too bad. So if anyone's interested, there is an organization. I think it's momsclub.org. I'll confirm that and put it in the chat. But absolutely a great way to get the children into your community if you're struggling.
well, I can tell you there's nothing that says joy more than seeing the interaction and the engagement between the kids and the elders. So, all right, it looks like Lynette is in and she has cloned me, which I wish it were the other way. I'd love to clone you, Lynette. So Lynette, can you hear me? It looks like you are my twin. Can you hear me, Lynette? It looks like she's logged in, but and it doesn't look like she's muted as me. So Meg, I will have you just chat with her to see if we can get her sound working. And it may be that she needs to call in and use that.
Yeah,
So-
perhaps you can, sorry, it's Meg here. We're working on it. We continue to work on it.
Okay, well, good enough. Well, thank you for all the good comments in the chat. And it does look like some of you are really attempting to do some wonderful things to get children and elders connecting, because it is a beautiful experience. And we're going to show a video, and the video is going to really talk about one of the residents that moved into a greenhouse home. Unfortunately, our sound is not working today, so we are going to have to get creative, and we'll tell you the story as the video is playing. I'm going to just read some of the chat. Even if children do not interact due to flu season, COVID, probably flu season, they can sing Christmas songs and ring bells just as entertainment. You do intergenerational. I have the challenges of fighting the stigma of people with dementia versus intergenerational persons. Yeah, there's always that stigma as well. But I can tell you that
it was a long journey for my family. She lived at home with her diagnosis for about 4 years. And the last 2 years that she was at home, she sat in her chair and she didn't talk. You could try to talk directly to her and she would sometimes talk back to you, but she was really not having any conversations. She got to where she would get up and go change clothes multiple times a day, but she had no quality of life. There's this awesome new concept that we have here in this little community. Let's try it. Within that first week, she had calmed down. She knew where her room was, so she was already familiar with her house or cottage that she lives in. The staff And they do this with everyone. I feel partial because it's my family, but they really took to her and made her a part of their family immediately. I mean, the first night she was here. So as that week went on, they had her playing the piano again. They had her baking a cake. She had not baked or cooked anything in, even more than 2 years, probably 5 or 6 years. She had not been in her kitchen. And they had her baking cake, and she was settled. And so a month passed, and then 2 months and 3 months, and now she's been here for over a year. She hit her year mark in January, and she has quality of life now. It's like a complete turnaround from who she was. And we had a Shabazz who wasn't working in that house, but she had just had a baby, and so she had brought the baby up here just to show the baby off and visit. And she took him into my Mama's house, and my Mama just instantly fell in love. She wanted that baby, give me that baby. And she held him and rocked him and just sang to him. And just, you would have thought that was her, with her sons when they were babies. The way that she was able to sing a song, it was like that baby brought back more of her. And so the Shabazz was so great. She just let her hold on to that baby for a really long time. I mean, it felt like an hour or more. And they just rocked and sang, and that made her entire day, from what she would remember. But it was just incredible how, because you can bring babies in and small children, and it does. You see that with dementia and Alzheimer's, like it'll trigger something. And it did for her that day. And that was her baby boy, and she was just rocking and singing. It was awesome.
You're trying to fight, aren't you? You're trying to do that.
This feels pretty good.
Well, that's what they do sometimes. Yeah, you let your sister try.
All righty. We're going to see if we get this without an echo. So, Susan, I'm channeling Lynette kind of literally through my phone and through my microphone. So, Lynette, why don't you talk, and we'll see if we can get you that people can hear you.
Hello, Susan. Are you able to hear me?
I hear you. This is wonderful. So, Lynette, let's have a chat about the video that we just saw, and the story of Jan. So talk a little bit about what Jan's life was like before moving into a greenhouse home.
So Jan lived with her husband prior to moving into the greenhouse home, fairly independent. He was able to take care of her in the early stages of dementia, but as her progression occurred, he was not able to take care of her. The young lady that you saw in the video, Jordan, actually worked here as our admissions and marketing person. So Jordan and her family made the decision to bring Jan to our home. She moved into our hide house, which is our memory care unit. Occasionally, you would see glimpses of the person that Jan used to be in the past. We had a piano sitting in the cottage, and occasionally she would walk by, play the piano. But for the most part, when you think of a person living in the end stages of dementia, that was Jan's life. So much of what we call meaningful engagement comes across spontaneously. The video that you saw with Jan was not something that was planned. We had a staff member who came in and really needed a babysitter for her child. And, with staffing as it is now, sometimes you have to do what you have to do. So we said, leave the baby here in our office and we'll take care of it while you go work. So then we took the baby over to our memory care unit and thought that maybe it would be a good experience for the elders living in that cottage to see a baby. But man, we did not know what we were going to get. That video is probably one of the highlights of my career. To see her hold that baby and look so lovingly at it with her eyes, and then when she started singing, it had been months since the family had heard any meaningful conversation from Jan.
I think that's what was so significant to me as well. And even her husband, I remember talking to her husband. We did a video of her husband, and he adored her and he wanted to get her out. She was a baker. She played the piano, I think, as you recalled, but he would not be able to get her out to engage in the community, and really wasn't communicating much with him as well. So it was remarkable how, and you heard in the video, the granddaughter said it felt like that baby brought her back to life, and that there was that
absolutely for those few minutes, it was like Jan was Jan again, and she was a mother, and she was a grandmother, and she was a wife.
Yeah, it was powerful. I think some of the other meaningful engagements that hopefully those that just saw the video you picked up on, and that was the dancing. That was the dancing. I think, Charles, you said, was there some dancing during the break? Well, let me tell you, they dance a lot at cottages at Belmead, and it was always striking to me. And we captured a lot of dancing on those videos, but Jan was dancing with her husband as well. So it really did seem to bring her back to life and really gave her some mobility and certainly meaning and purpose in her life. So, Lynette, I'm just curious, how do you make this happen? You seem to have had a can-do attitude when the Shabazz comes in and says, what am I going to do? I've got this baby. You say, oh, leave it here. We'll babysit. How does that happen? How does somebody that is in your role make that happen from the model fidelity purpose? How is it that the buses will pick kids up and drop kids off at the end of the day? Do you have policies, procedures? How do you make this happen? I think everybody who put something in the chat said they love this, but their next question is likely, but how do you make it happen? So talk to us about what you do.
The children and the school buses picking them up here and dropping them off also kind of arose out of necessity. We were in a staffing crunch, and we had mothers working here who could not get their children to school. So we called the school to try to figure out a solution, and the school said, we can pick up on that route. So parents who work here, and now even others in the community who live close to here, will actually wait on the bus at the end of our road, and then in the afternoon they come back and pick the children up here. You will see children running up and down our campus most of the day. Not so much policies. We don't really have policies concerning that. When the children go into the cottage, of course, it has to be something that the elders are agreeable to. And we do have one cottage that really doesn't like the children being in their cottage. So we kind of guide the children away from that cottage more towards the ones who really enjoy it. And the ones who do enjoy the children being there enjoy it so much that we kind of, we have another issue. So when there's weather, the children don't have any kind of shelter. So now we have a group of elders down in our N2 cottages, Busby and Vassar, who are trying to figure out how we can get a shelter built for the children while they wait on the school bus. But very spontaneous and really arose out of need. But it has been wonderful for our elders and also for the children, because so often in our culture now you don't see those intergenerational relationships, or you see children who are afraid to come visit people who live on a nursing campus.
That's exactly right. So any other particular story that really highlights the relationships that happen when these types of spontaneous interactions can occur? And I mean, these are people that, kids that are coming and interacting with elders on a regular basis. So any other story or anecdote to share with us?
Olivia's going to share.
Awesome. Thank you. I didn't know if Olivia was on. Great. Olivia?
Hello, it's Olivia.
Good.
Actually had a baby
10 months ago, almost 11, and my daycare wasn't able to take him until he was older. So I was forced to have to bring him to work with me every day for, I don't know, 2 to 3 weeks until we had an opening. And we would go and we would visit the elders in the cottages. And he was a little baby at this time, so it was exciting. All the elders held him, they sang to him, they laughed with him, they tickled him. I have a bunch of pictures where, especially in the memory care house, where they were just so happy when I would walk through the door with him, and they didn't want to give him back to me. They enjoyed when I came in with him and would hold him and take him, and they would not let me have him back until they were done. And it was exciting. And now he's 11 months old, fixing to be, and I can bring him out here and he will go to an elder and not even care, that he might not know this person very well, because he knows that these people have been a part of his life since he was around 6 to 8 weeks old.
That is incredible. You're reminding me, I was once a young director of nursing at a nursing home, and my childcare provider she was a nurse as well, and she worked a second shift, and she would bring my child, a baby, as you will, and I can remember him toddling down the long hallways and the elders just coming out into the hallway and engaging with him. So it really can happen. And so I think what I'd like to say is Lynette, you mentioned that it happened because there was a need and you had a problem that you needed to solve. But I think so often what we tend to do is say, well, it can't happen. It's not safe. It's not this. And we throw up all the reasons why it would never happen that way. But I think there is a belief that intergenerational opportunities work. There is a need, and those connections are important. And you figured out the way to make it happen. And it didn't have to be elaborate, but you just said, we'll do it. We'll figure it out. So anything else to say how you created such intention? Yes, go ahead.
Traditionally, people would tell you this can't happen. I challenge you to do 2 things. Change the why to why not, and the we can't to how can we. And if you look hard enough, you will find a way to accomplish most things.
That's powerful. That is really powerful. So I'm going to ask a question. We're going to watch the chat. And what I'd love to see everybody respond to. So given what you've just heard, given what you just saw, the opportunity to incorporate children into your environment. You've heard the conversation. You've heard what Lynette just offered as why not and how can we? On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 saying, we got this, we're going to do it. And 1, there is no way, Jose, that this could happen. Put in the chat how likely this could happen. Oh, I'm seeing lots of 10s. Yay, yay, yay. Okay. 9, 10, 8, 7s, 4. Okay. We have a ways to go, but I hope you have heard a bit of what they have said as things to think about and how we can get really, really excited. So in terms of honoring your preferences, I just, sometimes we've got elders and they want to engage in what we would call risky preferences. And Lynette, I think what you said, instead of why not? And I think it's a beautiful, beautiful way to frame it. But we're going to show another video. And this one takes another one of those principles from our Best Life approach, and it's the dignity of risk. And in the subsequent session, you're going to hear, we're going to unpack dignity of risk with Dr. Liza Behrens. But I want you to see the video now of Miles the dog, and then I'm going to have Olivia and Lynette unpack what it is and why they did it. And you'll get to see Lynette's face, at least in the next video, as she's one of the stars of the show. So Meg, if you can play that video, and we'll hope for good sound again.
The greenhouse model really promotes real home, and part of lots of people's real home is having a pet in their home. I mean, I have a dog and have for a long time. But I've always thought, I just don't know that that's really possible in a nursing home environment.
the Greenhouse Cottage motto is to implement animals and for it to be a more home-like atmosphere. So I have a Shih Tzu at home that became pregnant, and she had 4 pups. And so I spoke with everybody up here and said that I would donate one of the dogs to the cottage, and we would train him and let him become part of the home. And the elders were also involved in that. All of our elders wanted an animal. So at 6 weeks, I started bringing Miles up to the nursing home. And for the first couple months, I would just bring him during the day while I was here for him to get used to the elders and elders get used to him. And after a couple months, I started leaving him overnight. At about 4 months, he was completely potty trained. We're not going to say that there wasn't any accidents, because there was some. He brings so much joy and life to the residents.
Again, sometimes the hardest place to champion model integrity is with your clinical support team. Those of us who've been doing this for decades, sometimes we don't get it, and we focus on the negative outcomes that might be instead of the positive outcomes that are. So I went to the first department head meeting, and lo and behold, we had a skin tear. And some of our department heads, our clinical support team, said the dog has to go. So I'm sitting there thinking, how am I going to explain to my staff who have invested so much time and energy into not only a dog, but a puppy? How am I going to explain to them and to the elders living in that cottage that now Miles has got to go? So I sit there the rest of the meeting, and I'm thinking, and finally I thought, okay, Lynette, your title is Model Integrity Facilitator, so it's time to buckle down. And I said, guys, we have to discuss this more. Miles cannot go. If you believe that he needs to go, I challenge you to go spend 30 minutes in that cottage since he's been there. We have seen elders who, to be honest, at our previous facility, we're getting ready to give a 30-day discharge because of behaviors, hostility that they had towards not only some of the elders that they were living with, towards the staff, towards other family members, and we were getting ready to discharge them. And now this elder lives in that home and is the most pleasant man you could ever be around. And he gives me his shopping list once a week, and it's got dog treats ×2, and it has to be exactly the right dog treats, and he'll send me pictures of what kind of dog treats he wants, and I go get those. And then I have another elder living in that cottage who is she is an elder living with advanced dementia. And previously her day, we had really had problems getting her to interact with anyone. We couldn't find that meaningful for her. And now she will sit on the couch and rub Miles and talk to Miles, and you can see her at the table when she gets done eating and she thinks we don't see her, but she'll bite off what's left, and he'll sit down at her by her feet at the table and she feeds him. I said, so I challenge you, before you say the dog's got to go, I want you to go down there and look. So some of them did, and we have had to think out of the box, but Miles is still there. It hasn't been easy. The staff has to be devoted to our elders that live in that cottage really aren't able to take him outside when he needs to go. They're not able to exercise him like he needs to be exercised. So the staff has to be committed. That again starts with us as the guide of that house. Once I saw the positive outcomes, I knew whatever I had to do, if it had to be me down there taking the dog out, that's how it was going to have to be. One of the families that was especially upset with the skin tear said, I do not want Miles back in my mother's room. And I thought, well, that may be an issue because your mother really likes Miles. So I went down and spent some time with this elder who said, I don't care what my daughter says. I love Miles, and he's gonna be here. We had to have some care plan meetings and really explain to the families that it doesn't really matter what we want. What matters is what your mom wants, and your mom loves Miles, and this is why her day is better, because of Miles. This elder will tell you Miles makes it home. So, real home, meaningful engagements, and then a staff that was empowered enough, even when some of us seasoned nursing home staff were saying Miles has to go, they were saying, no, we think we can work around this and make it work.
Oh, every time I see that video, I get so excited, and I do remember exactly, Lynette, that story. And as I've looked at the chat, it looks like many of you certainly at least have pet therapy, or you're bringing your own dogs, or there's a kind of a dog that's kind of a house pet or something. So it sounds like many of you are really working through this, and you really think that it's a good idea. So Lynette and Olivia, come back. And Lynette, since it was your face that we saw kind of narrating it, and it was you that really kind of had to challenge some of the thoughts about, no, it's too risky. Leadership said, no, we're not going to do it. Family members said, no, we're not going to do it. So talk to us about that process and what that was like to really ensure that Miles was going to stay, from staff taking care of the dog and walking the dog and cleaning up after him all the way through. So tell us what that was like.
Well, there's really so much more to this story than what we heard. Of course, you can see the meaningful engagements in the real home in the video, but what you may not see is the empowered staff. Because like I said, I had known for quite some time that I might want a dog to live at our cottage one day. So in one of our staff meetings, I just kind of casually dropped the thought that, a pet might really be good for Bell Cottage. And then I had an unexpected sickness and was in the hospital for an extended amount of time. And while I was in the hospital, got the picture of a puppy sent to me. And Priscilla, the Shabazz that you saw in the video, said, this is Miles, and he's going to be our house dog. And I was awake all night long thinking those what ifs. What if someone gets a skin tear? What if, Miles chews on the furniture, which he did. But then when I got the pictures and saw the interaction between Miles and the elders that live in that cottage, I saw that Miles was no longer just a dog or just a pet. He was family to that cottage. Miles had an incredible ability to know when someone was sick. And so when someone started getting sick, he would start long before the staff saw any symptoms. He would go sit outside their door or go lie under their bed. I can't tell you how many times Miles actually picked up on something being wrong before any staff member did. But then skin tears happen. There is often a knee-jerk reaction. And again, lots of times it's those of us who have been in long-term care for 20 plus years who say, no, we can't do this. We can't do this because, and again, we've got to refocus and figure out how we can make it work. As far as the daughter that did not want the dog back in her mother's room, we have to remember that just because we're old, just because we're living with dementia, doesn't mean that we lose our ability to choose. We have the right to live the life that we want to live. So when I went in the elder's room and she said, oh, it's just a little bitty scratch, and I love Miles and I want him here, it was kind of a done deal. And she was willing to say that to her daughter. So that was never an issue again. There are a few policies involved with a dog or any pet. You have to be able to prove that it is vetted. So you have to keep the shot records, and they have to be readily available. If a surveyor or a family member comes in and asks for those, you have to have them readily available. And that can come into a cost. So another outcome of Miles, we had an elder who had lived in one of our other cottages and really was not happy in that cottage, complained. I hate to use the word constantly, but almost constant complaints. And the family said, what if we could move her to another cottage and see if she would be happier there? So they moved her to Bell House, and she fell in love with Miles. When this elder passed away, kind of a funny anecdote to the story, I went to her visitation, and it's in this ornate church. I mean, all of your little prim and proper ladies walking around. And the elder's son come up to me and started laughing and said, "I can't wait till you get to Mom's casket." So I think, what in the world am I going to see? And I walk up to her casket. She was actually buried in a white sweatshirt that had Miles' picture on the front. That's how much that dog meant to her and to her family. Then they came back after the funeral. They came to our campus and they brought us a check that was enough to provide for Miles' vet care for the next year.
Wow.
So lots of times when your families and your elders can see the life that you're bringing, and it's no longer just existing, elders are actually living, they're willing to buy into that and often help support.
Wow, Lynette, that's powerful. Thank you for sharing that. And you know, Marla and Stacy were talking about person-directed living, and you can see exactly how that happened. She wasn't just existing, but she was really having something that was so meaningful to her that she even took it into death with her. So that's incredible. Really appreciate that. I think the other thing that I'd like to draw your attention to is Marla's comments about the construct we use: beliefs, behaviors, and systems. And what Lynette just described really is a beautiful picture of the beliefs, that mindset shift that embraces the idea of not we can't, but what can we do to make this happen? So how do we need to shift our belief to embrace that those opportunities to connect with pets, it's an important thing. And then, you know, the behavior and what we're going to need to do to really ensure that those behaviors are shifted to embrace that new mindset. And then the system, and I like what you said about the policy and, you know, some of the things that you had to do to be regulatory compliant and to make sure you had everything, all the boxes checked. So anything to add, Lynette?
Sometimes have to think outside of the box.
Yeah.
So Miles was a puppy. Again, probably would not have been my choice because puppies are difficult to train, and we did have an issue with Miles chewing on things. So when Miles came to our campus, we were a fairly new campus with beautiful furniture. And I walk in the cottage one day, and Miles has chewed the leg off of one of the chairs. And I thought to myself, Miles, boy, I might not be able to get you out of this one. So again, the team got together and thought, what can we do? And we contacted, or rather one of the Shabazz contacted a man who constructed furniture, who came in and showed us how to use wood paste and wood putty and reconstruct the leg of the chair. We had to do that several times before we got Miles broke. But if you think outside of the box, you can make things happen. I also want to caution that this time of the year, you have to be ever vigilant, because from a good place in their hearts, people think that robotic animals and stuffed animals and baby dolls are a wonderful thing for Christmas. So you have to educate staff, families, and visitors to why those things are not really what we want and why we can do.
So it does remind me of the power of normal, and the reality is that part of life are those things. I've got lots of scratches on my floor too from my 115-pound golden retriever, but that's part of life. And we figure out how to cover those scratches and live the thriving life as we engage with our pets. So that's powerful, Lynette. So do you have challenges with that? It sounds like perhaps you do have some challenges with well-meaning family members who want to give a robotic pet.
You just have to know why real is better. They have to see why real is better. You know, like Jan and the baby doll and the real baby. Really what motivates me is something that I saw in Best Life, because I've been a nurse since 1995, been in long-term care since 1987. So I've given many baby dolls from a good place in my heart. And when we went through Best Life training, I saw that there was going to be a section about baby dolls and real versus fake animals. And I thought to myself, yeah, I'm going to sit and listen to this, but there's no way I'm going to buy into this. And then put a man with a Tonka truck. And I thought, that's something we would never do. And yet our little ladies, we hand baby dolls out to all day long. So that was really what got our campus started thinking in a more forward thought process.
So Lynette, I just, to the person who would say, and certainly we are lighting up the chat a bit with these comments, because I think you're right. I think it's well intended. You said yourself had given a baby doll many times in your tenure. But why is it that we should advocate for real versus the fake? What are the advantages? And I think many people tell me, but the person that I give that robotic dog to, they're responding positively to it. And there is research that would say that there was a positive response. So why would you still argue or advocate for real versus fake?
This is Olivia.
Yeah.
So real versus fake. Fake can bring happiness, but it's different when you have, I'm going to use a baby as an example, a real live baby interacting back with you. You can hold a baby doll all day long, but it's not going to cry. It's not going to giggle. It's not going to reach out and hold your finger. But a real baby will, and that is what touches the elder's heart, is when they feel like they're connecting to a part of them that they've lost. Real is much better than fake because of the interactions you get to do. I've seen a couple that have baby dolls, and they'll hold them, but when it's a real baby, they'll laugh with them, they'll hold them, they'll sing to them, they'll rub their face. In my experience, one of the elders actually smelled my baby's head and just smiled because it smelled like a baby.
Well, I'm reading the chat and listening to what you're saying. You guys have proven that the real interactions and engagement, and Olivia, as you were talking, it really feels like there is some sort of a responsiveness and an engagement, and that is really meaningful to both the baby as well as to the elder who is involved in that. Here's the other thing that I will add to it. Our robots, no matter how brilliantly they're designed, they're innate objects, and they don't have that capacity to really be in that place of giving and receiving love. Our furry friends, as well as babies and children, they're humans, and they really have that opportunity to give back. And I think the other thing for me, what really sealed the deal, and as a nurse, I've certainly given my share of baby dolls to calm a person living with dementia that was in distress. I've seen the places where they've had changing stations and all sorts of things for women to kind of remember, oh yeah, I used to do this. And they saw that baby doll as a real baby, and yet there was no connection or engagement. And I think the other thing is, if we are trying to destigmatize dementia, if we are trying to put the punctuation on one's worth and their value, anytime that we give somebody an inanimate object and they're engaging as if it were real, are we potentially diminishing their value? How do we see them? Do we see them potentially as less than? And if that is the case, then we should do all that we can to really say, why not? And how can we, to Lynette's points. So any final comments in our final 3 minutes? That's a power-packed conversation, and we're really eager to keep those types of conversations going, because at the end of the day, we are here to destigmatize dementia. We are here to ensure that each person, no matter their diagnosis or cognition, that they are seen as people with intrinsic worth. And we want our teams to be empowered to make those decisions. So Lynette and Olivia, I'm going to give you the final words.
I do want to have one last comment I want to make, and it's actually going to be making a plug to something that I've seen this holiday season that has touched my heart. I don't know if any of you have seen the new commercial that Chevrolet has put out, but it is about a lady with dementia, end-stage dementia. The husband is standing there talking to the daughter, and he says, Some days there's more bad than good, but the love is always there. Then the granddaughter goes up and says, let's make it a good day, to the grandmother. And she gets her up and she takes her outside and she lets her live the life that she used to live. She takes her to the school she went to the home. I'm going to tell you, Chevrolet really got it. They nailed what taking care of someone with dementia should look like. So if you've not seen that commercial, I challenge you to watch it. It brings tears to your eyes.
So yes, it looks like, Charles, you have seen it and he has put it in the chat. I haven't seen it, but I have had probably a handful of people reach out to me and ask me if I've seen it. They said, I know this is your thing and you'll probably really like it. So thanks.
You will love it, I promise.
I'm sure. Well, Olivia and Lynette, I am just so honored that you joined us today to share your wisdom and the lessons that you have gained over your experiences there. Olivia, your role to support the Shabbazim and Meaningful Life and Engagements is just, it's powerful. And I can tell you're living it. I mean, as you really are advocating through your real life experiences with your baby. And Lynette, you have been that champion from the get-go. And thank you both for joining us today. And once again, Charles, thank you for having us. It was our pleasure to be able to share.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, guys. You're muted, Charles, or at least I can't hear you.
I was making a comment. I just want to congratulate you for this meaningful session, despite the technical troubleshooting and everything. This was awesome. This was great. So we're going to wrap up this second session. Meg, I think we can stop the recording. And we're now going to head into our second break.